You're listening to GotTechED the Podcast with your hosts, Eric Guise and Nick Johnson. Welcome back to GotTechED the Podcast. This is episode 73 called 7 New EdTech Tools to be Thankful For. In this episode, we'll talk about some of the things that we're thankful for, followed by a deep dive into some exciting new EdTech tools that we'll be testing out as 2020 draws to a close. This is another episode you don't want to miss. Check it out.
All right, so we are in our Thanksgiving episode, and there's something that we like to do each year when we start off the Thanksgiving episode and kind of do a little reflection of the year past and what we're thankful for. For me personally, I'm kind of thankful that 2020 is almost over. I mean, what a rotten year.
I know, man. It's just been, when you think back about everything, the news that has been happening, and especially how that news in particular with the coronavirus has impacted education, which we don't usually see typically. Things that are happening in the world, we can kind of shut the door and at least focus on our classes and how we're teaching, but it's had a big effect on us. So yeah, that's a great point, man.
Yeah, but even with the impact of coronavirus, not everything has been negative. We do have some bright spots that we could look at. First of all, education in itself, it's kind of exciting in a way that, teachers were forced out of their comfort zone, and I think it's just going to make them better teachers at the end of it, because now we are becoming more technology infused, and I think we're doing it in the right way. We're not just throwing all these different tech tools into the classroom. We're doing it with a purpose. There's a function, a purpose, everything behind it. And it's kind of exciting because when we do go back to normal, if we go back to normal, I don't know what the proper wordage is here, but when we go back to normal, we'll have a stronger base to our technology and we're going to be able to expand on it. And I think everything's just going to seem a little bit easier for teachers, especially those that were very tech uncomfortable before COVID.
Yeah, that's true. And even, I consider myself pretty tech comfortable in a lot of ways, but that has grown for me too. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but I've, for probably 5 years, I've been talking about going completely paperless in my classes. And it's always just been kind of pushed off to the back because it takes a lot of time and it's an easy thing to not do because, of course, it's much simpler to print that worksheet and go make the copies. However, this year I'm doing it. So November 24th, so we're 3 months in and I've only printed 3 sets of papers for my classes, which is pretty nice, and it has taken a lot of time, but like you said, dude, going into next year, it's going to be done and it's going to feel great, and so the future is looking a lot nicer in terms of those little tech changes that we're sort of being forced to make. I was also thinking recently that it's nice, just that as crazy as it's been, that we, education has shown, I think, in a large sense that we can do it. We can teach from home. We can keep some education taking place. Say what you will about whether or not it's the same quality or the same level of what was happening. Were we all in class? Personally, I don't know how you feel, but I've been super impressed with what most teachers are able to do and teach in these remote and hybrid environments.
Yeah, I think teachers are very good at figuring it out. I mean, at the beginning of this, you could tell that we were all stressed out. And I think to a point, we are still very stressed out as a whole, but I think we're getting to a better place with remote and virtual and hybrid learning, that it is a lot better quality than what it was in the spring. And because we are now able to verify that all our students have somewhat of a level playing field when it comes to technology, being able to identify students that might need home Wi-Fi, and we're able to hand out Kajits, or maybe their Chromebook isn't up to speed or there's something going on there. We have a system in place to exchange those out. So I think we are definitely to a point now where we can kind of push on and move on and see where we could take this.
Yeah, I'm going to give one final thankful shout out, and that's to the students. I've been just really impressed with how much they've grown over the past few months, especially as well. There was a girl just the other day I was trying to figure out. A teacher was asking me how to do, it's called a Kahoot challenge, where you make a, typical Kahoot, but you can share that out in what they call a challenge. I didn't even know about this, but it's essentially, it's not a game that the whole group plays. You just push the link and students can play individually at their own pace. And a teacher asked if they could have students create their own Kahoots and then have the students share those Kahoots as challenges with each other. And I was just trying to research to see if that was possible because I hadn't seen it before. So I grabbed a student out of the hallway, asked them to bring their Chromebook into the media center, and they pretty much walked me through the whole process of, how does a student log in to create their own Kahoot? How do they share that out? And what would have probably taken me 30 minutes to find and test and log in as a student, this particular student showed me, like I said, really quickly. So that's just one example of many different times where the kids have been sort of helping to educate me. And I've just sort of had this moment like, wow, that's crazy that you guys are now doing this. And it's a lot more than I've seen in the past. You can follow GotTechED outside the podcast at GotTech.com or on Twitter at WeGotTechED.
Let's move into today's content, which is all about some tech tools that we're excited to try out over this Thanksgiving and then holiday break and maybe implement into our second semester. So Nick, get us started. I know you picked some awesome ones. I think I have a couple good ones as well. Let's go at it.
Yeah, so our goal, just so everybody knows, was and we do this from time to time because sometimes what happens is we find our favorite things, our favorite tech tools, and we tend to bring those up a lot because we're excited about them, we get passionate, and we want to make sure all the listeners, whoever decides to tune in to whatever podcast, will hear about certain things. But sometimes we change that and try to find completely new things too. So these are all selections, and there's 7 of them that we think are great, and we have never talked about them before on the show. So they're not necessarily new in the EdTech world, but they are new to us. And the first one that I found, it actually used to be called Turbo Note, but there was some sort of a copyright infringement, so they had to change their name. And I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but I think it's YiNote, YiNote. Might also be YiNote. Do you know how that one is pronounced?
I'd say pick one, be confident, and roll with it. So I'm going with YiNote.
Yeah, let's go with YiNote. But it's really great. And this one caught my eye as somebody who does a lot of flipped classroom stuff where my students are watching YouTube videos. And I've noticed increasingly as the kids get more used to this, and they're doing it in a lot of their classes now, they're all taking digital notes, at least a lot of them. But they're all doing it different ways. Some kids happen to have an iPad from home, so they pull up some kind of a note-taking tool on their iPad. Other kids are, just keeping it as simple as typing in a Google Doc. Some kids are still taking notes by paper too, but YiNote is like another option that I think I'm going to share with them that is a little bit different and unique and sort of tailored to taking notes while watching a YouTube video. So the way it works is, first of all, it's an extension. So you'll download the extension, and when you do that and you've got a YouTube video up, you'll click the extension to open it, and it kind of gives you this like a menu along the right hand side of the screen where it's as simple as the YouTube video is playing and you take a note for something that you want to write down and record. So you type it into this little text box, you click a button, and it saves that note. The coolest part about it is that it timestamps that note, so it's always linked back to that certain point in the video, and you'll see that come back in a little bit. And you just keep doing this. So the video goes on, you type another note, click the button, it saves it, it timestamps all of those things as you go. So that's sort of like the simplest aspect of this. As you go back at the end, you can then click on any one of those timestamps, and it automatically navigates back to that point in the video, so you can rewatch just the portion of the video that has to do with that text, which is pretty cool. A couple other features that caught my eye is you can, once you're done with the entire video, there's a generate PDF button, and it turns all of your notes into a PDF document, which is great because it sort of combines them into this one series of notes on this one lesson or this one video. The coolest part to me was that it automatically grabs screenshots from the video to correspond with that note that you've taken at that timestamp, as well as those timestamps in the PDF remain linked, so you can click on them and it takes you back to that portion of the video. So it sort of turns your notes into like this interactive note-taking experience, which which for me would be super awesome. And then the last part, which is cool, and I'm pretty sure this is unique to eNote. I didn't see any others that did this, which is you can share a video with someone else who also has the eNote extension installed. And if you do that, they can click, I think it's join event is what I saw. But it turns this YouTube video note-taking session into sort of like a collaborative experience where those two people watch the YouTube video simultaneously from different computers, completely different places, and they can take notes together. So my notes get combined with the other person's notes, and it's syncing that together into one combined note-taking document. So like me and you guys might do this if we were watching a video on one of the tech tools we're going to talk about, and we could both take our own notes about it. As we watch, you might catch different things than me. Click that generate PDF button, and now we've got a combined series of notes and timestamps that the two of us put together. So it looks like a really great, sort of like a new age way to help kids take notes while they watch videos.
I think this one's awesome. As you were going, I was trying to think of taglines for eNote, like eNote, making online note-taking collaborative. I mean, really, there's so many things about this tool that I love. The fact that it gives you a PDF when you're done with screenshots, it kind of reminds me of iRad. We use iRad to make those learning guides for teachers, but I'm going to use this I've been doing a lot of virtual professional development, and most of them have been recorded on YouTube, and sometimes I don't catch them live. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for taking notes on PDs that, are pre-recorded. And I think that is an amazing tool. I'm going to hop into my first one here, which is classflow.com. All right, classflow.com is my favorite. Free. That was my very bad. Free.
That was great.
We're going to have to soundbite that. Free. But anyway, it is a free tool, and it's really cool, and that rhymed, and I'm so happy about that. All right, so anyway, ClassFlow. It connects with your Google Drive. It also connects with other things as well. It basically allows you to create and deliver interactive lessons with these easy-to-use tools. So there's an instant whiteboard. The whiteboard is very basic, but to be honest with you, a lot of times in my classroom, I'm looking for something that is very easy and basic to use. And you can make, kind of like Jamboard, you can make several different whiteboards. So each one is like a separate slide almost. You could start a quick poll in there. You can also create some type of activity in there. I did a quick Venn diagram. I showed it to you before we did this recording, where I took a plant cell and an animal cell, and we were talking organelles, and then the Venn diagram made a little common area, and basically on the left, students would have to pick and it's a drag and drop. They would have to pick all the organelles that were only found in plants, only found in animals, and then all the ones that are found in both. And it was super easy to make. It took me a minute. It looks nice. It's interactive. Gives them instant feedback of whether they got something right or wrong. It times them if you want to do a little gamification challenge with it. I'm going to definitely use that for some do nows. And then the last thing is you can create quizzes or assessments right in there and get some pretty nice statistical feedback there as part of your lesson goes on. There are ways that you can import your slides in there as resources, which is pretty cool. And you share all this out to your students by inviting them using a class code. It's FERPA COPA compliant. That's another thing I checked on. So it's just a nice tool. It's free. Take a look at it. We'll post it in the show notes.
Yeah, anything with a class code, I kind of buy in immediately because I know how easy it's going to be to kind of share that out and get my kids going on it. And I really love, we only looked up close at the Venn diagram tool, but even just that caught my eye as something that's been tough for me traditionally to let the students get feedback on right away because, it's a Venn diagram that usually it's a piece of paper that they fill out, but even if you make a digital version, they just type stuff in. There's no good way for them to know what's right or wrong with that, but this gives them that immediate feedback.
Yeah, just a couple other things as far as the activities that you could easily do, and think of your transitions in your classroom. Sometimes when we're remotely teaching or doing hybrid, we have some downtime because you as a teacher, you need to X out of certain windows. You got to bring up other ones. So what if you pushed out one of these quick and easy? It's almost like a brain break. But you can make crossword puzzles. You can do a categorization activity where you give them like a heading, and they have to drag stuff under each heading to categorize them. They could look at some flashcards. They could label diagrams. They could play a game of memory, matching. They could do sequencing, and they can create timelines or fill in a timeline, as well as a word search and, like I said, the Venn diagram. So there's a lot of very quick do now, under 2-minute, 3-minute activities that you can give them while you're trying to set up the next activity in remote or hybrid learning.
Yeah, so I'm excited to try Classroom or classflow.com. This next one that I found is specifically geared towards STEM teachers, although I have a feeling that this would actually have a place for all subject areas as well. It's called Floop, Floop. It is a feedback tool, and these days, we've got tons of feedback tools that are really great. Kind of Guise's baby has been Moat over the past couple episodes or past few months as a really great way to give that like recorded verbal feedback in your Google Doc. But sort of what's left hanging then is the STEM teachers who are, especially when it comes to problem solving, students writing their work on a piece of paper and still being able to get feedback on those written out calculations and problem solving. So Floop is kind of like the answer to that. I've been describing it as like the Moat for handwritten math problems. So the way it works is students are, doing their work and solving problems the way that is still probably easiest to them, which is writing it on a piece of paper. So that's on your worksheet or just in their notebooks. Well, if they have Floop, what they can do is actually use their phone. And that's always a huge buy-in piece for me because that's what they're most comfortable with. That's what they have with them all the time, and you can count on as being fully charged and ready to go. But they take their phone, they capture an image of their writing, and with Floop, they send that image to the teacher via the tool, via Floop. And as the teacher, I get that image immediately. It's instantaneous, and I can look at it and I can sort of like annotate different regions of their picture where I see an issue. So where I would normally, draw like a circle, if I had their physical copy in front of me, I might draw a circle around this and put a little note round to the proper number of digits or something like that. I can do that now too, just using Floop. So I annotate that little area where they need to round better. You can have canned comments sort of typed in. So there's a menu on the right-hand side. I click and drag my note that says watch your rounding, drag it over, and then that area of their work gets annotated. And as soon as I drop that in, so it's instantaneous, and that's the coolest part. So they advertise themselves as like a big time saver. As soon as I drag over that comment to that area of their work, the student sees that. And it actually opens up sort of like a back and forth dialogue, similar to in just like a Google Doc commenting, how I make a comment and somebody else can comment back and you get like that string of comments going. That happens in Floop too, and the student can start that as well. If they know there's an area in what they're sending the teacher where they know there's a mistake, they can also annotate that and sort of bring the teacher's attention to it straight away. They send me that picture. I see the areas that they've marked out, so I can just go to those straight away and offer my commenting there. So it's this really kind of cool way to instantaneously provide feedback and commenting back and forth on these pictures of student work. So Floop, I have not used it with my classes yet, but I've seen a bunch of tutorials, and it's definitely something that I'm going to be trying out in the near future to help me get a sense of what my students are doing, especially, because we are still sort of in this remote setting, so I can see what they're doing without hovering over their shoulders and looking in real life.
Is it free?
There is a paid subscription service, but you can use some of it for free.
All right, I'll stop doing that. We'll get into my next one. I love feedback apps in EdTech Tools. So anything for feedback, I'm all for. You know that. My next one is called Blookit. BLOOKET.com. Blookit. And Blookit is kind of the new gamification tool that has popped up on my radar over the last couple weeks. I've been playing around with it. I did use it a couple times in class. Basically, if you think of some of our other gamification formative feedback quiz like tools that we use, such as GimKit, Quizzes, Quizalize, what else? Kahoot. I'm missing one.
You've named the ones that I usually go to. I'm not sure.
All right. But anyway, I know that we're missing another one. Did I say GimKit? That might have been the one that I missed.
That could be.
That's my favorite one. But anyway, Blookit, it does a lot of similar things. The difference is you have I don't know how to really explain this in a way because I've never played Magic or Pokemon or anything like that. But how each one of those cards have different strengths and weaknesses. So basically this brings us in, and as you answer questions right, you can collect these cards, and it's going to be a booklet. It's going to be these little cartoon looking things, and they have 3 different characteristics about them, and they're rated a certain level. So as you collect these cards, you then get to go into some type of interactive game, and you'll get a challenge from a player, a booklet player. And basically, as you get questions right, you get to pick which one of those different characteristics about them, which one that the number that you're going to use, and the opponent picks a character and the number that it's going to use, and basically the difference between the two, one of the experience level points is going to go down. So if I have a llama booklet, I'm just making this up, and you have a donkey booklet, and my strength category number is 17 and yours is 14. Well, there would be 3 damage points or experience points taken away from you, and whoever is still standing after all those experience points were expired is the winner. And then you just keep going through this maze and take on different challenges. I almost think of it, my son is getting into Pokemon, the old Game Boy game. Ancient, right?
Yep.
And you're searching through the fields, and then all of a sudden a level whatever comes up. It's kind of the same thing where you have that little battle and then you keep moving on. So how does this work? The teacher chooses a question set or creates their own. Then they select a game mode. There's several different unique game modes that you could play. The teacher will simply host a game on a large screen in front of the class, or they can complete on their own devices this game, and then you're going to play it a review, and then after that you'll analyze the results. So there is data there that you can take away from this. I do find that a lot of this is memorization if you're asking the question that way. I used it as something different. What I did is I used different graphs. And basically what I'm trying to tell my students right now is a graph or a piece of data is telling a story. So I want them to look at this graph and select the statement that best represents the story of that graph. It's just a new thing I'm trying to talk through and get them to talk about and be able to really get down to what that graph or piece of data is saying. So what I do is I give them 4 choices, and then we talk about it afterwards. I think it's just a unique take on that. I will tell you, you can select how long they can spend on that question, whether it's 60 seconds. You just set the number of seconds that they're allotted, and then they're able to kind of spend that much time on there. So I'm using this solely just to generate discussions, and we're going to do one question at a time.
That's pretty cool. For me, there's no shortage of, how many different gamification tools can we have. I think the more the better. Kahoot's like the one that people go to because they know it. GimKit, I think, is still waiting to be discovered on a large scale. And it seems like Bookit could be sort of like a third option just based on what you described. It's a little bit different. So you may have a group of students that prefers this type of thing, like that battle component where there's competing points. And I was impressed with how you described that, even though you're not into those types of games. Neither am I, but I still feel like I got the sense of how it works based on what you said, and it sounds like it might be worth checking out. This next one, I'm going to go out and say this might be, at least for me, this is the tool of the show, because it seems like it solves a problem that I have, especially in this new environment of sharing stuff almost 100% electronically to in-person students, to at-home students. And it's definitely also going to have a purpose once we leave that and sort of get back to normal, where all the kids are together in the same room. It's called classroomscreen.com. So imagine this, you've got, you're running a lesson and you've got a lot of different tech tools going. And to make that happen, you probably know that you have to be a lot of places at once. You got to have a lot of tabs open. So if you're doing, explaining the directions of the activity, maybe you're in Google Slides. And then you want a timer to let the kids know how much time they have to work. So then you go to Google and you pull up the Google timer tool, and you're showing that. And then you're trying to provide feedback to the kids. So you've got some of their documents up and you're doing, Google commenting with Moat. And then there's some group work. So you're trying to randomly pick student names to put kids in groups once they finish with the first part. So you're going to a random name generator. And there's all these different spots, and you sort of have to seamlessly do this. And we can get pretty good at this type of thing, but it takes time, right? Well, with classroomscreen.com, it sort of eliminates the need to have all of these different tools up at the same time and pulls them into one spot. And that one spot is the classroom screen. So it's kind of specifically built for distance learning, where you have all of these different tools running. What you can imagine is that I have a classroom screen started, and it's being projected in my room so the in-person kids can see, and so can the at-home students, as long as that screen is being shared. And on that screen, what you can do, they call them widgets, but they're essentially, you can think about them too as like little apps, just tools that you can choose to add to this one single screen, and they save you from having to jump from place to place. And it saves a lot of time because I don't have to, jump into my Google Drive and frantically search for some document I want to show the kids, but I forgot to have up and ready to go. It's all there. Everything's sort of preloaded onto this classroom screen that I need. So here's some of the most popular widgets that they offer, just so you can get a sense of what you can do. There's a timer tool, which is great because I'm constantly running timers and constantly going to Google to pull them up. There's a drawing tool, so where I would have to go into Jamboard and share that out, or pull up whiteboard.fi and start a room so that the kids can see what I'm writing. There's a drawing tool embedded right in the classroom screen. There's a traffic light, which you can use for all different sorts of purposes. Students can use it to indicate their progress on something that they're working on, or you can use it to tell them to stop or slow down or move on with different aspects of what they're doing. A QR code generator to easily link things to the whole group, and that QR code pops straight into the screen that's being shared. They can hold up their phones, capture it, and they're off and running with whatever you just linked them to. Text boxes, so you can type out directions mid-lesson. The name generator I mentioned earlier, you can do that if you preload their names into classroom screen. They have these things called work symbols, which are just like, quiet time or work together or silence, to sort of let them know what should be happening. There's actually, this is maybe my favorite one, there's a sound level monitor. So it connects to your microphone and kind of lets the students know if they're being too quiet or too loud, depending on what you set. Also, a polling feature. So now I don't even have to go out and start up, GoFormative or whatever polling tool I'm using on that particular day. I can poll straight from classroom screen as well. So, all of these things are relatively simple. They're not as robust as some tools that are, only made for drawing on a whiteboard or only made for polling, but they're simple and they're all in one place. And I think we'll find that our lessons go a whole lot faster when you sort of run them using classroomscreen.com.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot there.
I told you, tool of the show, right? There's a lot of stuff there.
I do like that tool. I do like a lot of things there. And I think that, especially for the sound one, the green light and stuff like that, I think this might be the tool also for elementary and middle school, maybe the earlier middle school grades, especially because I find that those would be very effective in communication and constant reminders, so that the teacher doesn't have to say, okay, we have to be quiet, maybe they gamify that a little bit, just the behavior part of it.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I'm not going to do the little high-pitched free voice that you started doing this episode, but I will I will say that there is a free version of this that sounds like, to me, it could do everything I need it to. You can have screens with up to 13 different widgets, so just in my list I was going off before, that was 12, so that didn't even hit the max you could have with their free version. You can do polling group makers and save a bunch of personalized settings, so start out with the free version. There is a paid service that gets you some more stuff, like saving the screens that you put together for future use. But the free version sounds pretty cool.
I can't say that I'm coining this high-pitched free. There's another podcaster that does it. I don't know who it is because I've been listening to so many podcasts lately. Fine. I don't know if I figure it out. I know it's someone that I listen to a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, let's go into my next one. It's called Type Studio. Type Studio is pretty awesome when it comes to editing video. Basic concept of it is that you upload your video, it takes a transcript of everything that you said during that video, and then you could edit your video based on selecting the transcript part. So if I go 16, 17 times in one paragraph, I can eliminate all the ums, and then it's going to be smoother. This is a cool tool. You get 20 minutes for free per month. If you go outside of the 20 minutes per month, it is a charge on it. I'm going to try this out. I think this was Darren White who I saw this one from. I thought it was pretty awesome. So this is one that I'm excited about because we've been making a lot of videos lately on our YouTube channel, and a lot of times we're in front of the camera, and that is different. It is way different than hiding behind a microphone in a podcast, because then you're present. So there's different pressures on you when you do that. And I often say something and then I'm like 3 minutes into the video and I was like, man, I'm going to have to cut that out somehow. I'll just restart. Well, maybe this eliminates that need. So I'm going to definitely check this one out. I think you should too. It will be in the show notes. Nick, it's your time to wrap this segment up.
Yeah, so my last one, and this will be quick because it's a simple tool. And I brought it up because I've talked a lot recently about, pushing out digital worksheets to students and the ways that you can do that. So my first struggle was with worksheets that are like image files. I was making them on a service called Canva for education. They have great worksheets, but you download them as PDFs or like PNG or JPEG image files, which is tough to get those out to the students in a way that they can use them digitally. The idea, really is that you print them, you make copies, which is fine if you're doing that, but if you can't do that, then you got to get it out to them digitally. So, I came up with some sort of workaround where you embed an image of that worksheet in a Google slide, and then on the Google slide, they can edit on top of it, right? They can add text boxes and write. So that was my first idea. Then I started using another really great tool called Cami. Cami is sort of built for that, right? Sharing and pushing out PDFs, and then the students can annotate on their own version of that and push it back to you. And Cami's great, but I'll be honest, it's been bothering me because Cami has made itself my default PDF viewer. So every time I open a PDF, it's opening it in Cami, and it's kind of getting to be a giant pain because I don't always want that. Sometimes I just want to look at it and print it or do some other thing. And I'm sure I could get more used to that and figure it out if I put in the time, but I'm maxed out on time. So I don't want to put in the time. So I've got a third option for everybody today, and it's called Duck Soup. It's a strange name, but it kind of caught my attention as well. Duck Soup kind of does that. It seems like it's very similar to Cami in that it takes your electronic worksheets, and the best part is you can do this with any different file type. So, if you're using Word docs, if you've got PDFs, you can do it with all those things, but it sort of, it takes that worksheet and it pushes it out to your students, and it lets them annotate and write on top of it with no effort, no converting, no nothing. It does all of that stuff for you. We know there's a lot of people out there, a lot of teachers that your classes run via Google Classroom, and Duck Soup integrates with that. So just like you would push assignments out on Google Classroom, you can use Duck Soup as sort of the tool to do this. So it's a big time saver, of course, just in that you're not copying paper worksheets, but also now in that you can just take, your Word doc as is, push it out via Duck Soup into Google Classroom. Your kids get it. They write on top of it. They send that back to you, and you can view their writing, edit their writing, just as if they were writing on top of those worksheets on paper. So Duck Soup, worth checking out if you have a need for something like that.
I'm going to go get me some Duck Soup.
Yeah.
For sure.
Makes you hungry too.
All right, so one thing we want to let you know is that we just came out with a teacher's guide to remote and hybrid learning. We've been spending a lot of time with this guide. We plan on adding to it as we get more practices that we like. And if you have any best practices for remote or hybrid learning that's not in this guide, please reach out and share it with us. We'll make sure that we give you credit in that guide. But we're going to put a link to the show notes for the Teacher's Guide to Remote and Hybrid Learning. Do us a favor. Go out and tell one of your teacher friends or a friend that likes to listen to podcasts about educational technology, and just let them know that we're here. And if you really like what you're doing, what we're doing, you can follow us on one of those major players. We are trying really hard to develop our YouTube channel to make it more interactive with teachers, more addressing the needs of teachers. So a lot of the questions that we're getting asked by our teachers or people in our PLN, we're creating videos on them and we're posting them on YouTube. So go over there, check out GotTechED, the YouTube channel. That will be in the show notes as well. And subscribe. So that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Make sure that you check out our website for templates, podcast episodes, and blogs. That's over at www.gottech.com, or check us out on Twitter at WeGotTech.
Thanks for listening to GotTech the Podcast. Remember to subscribe to our show and follow us at WeGotTech on Twitter so you can stay up to date with the latest episode releases, blog posts, product reviews, and PD announcements. You can also follow Guise and I individually at Guise GotTech and at Nick GotTech on Twitter, or on Instagram at Nick GotTech. Finally, remember to check out our website, GotTechED.com, where we post all our episodes, articles, and resources available to you for free. Until next time.